what do you need to think about from a networking point of view? So let's start with on-premise connectivity. So let's assume that you're moving your estate from an on-prem or from a data center where you have a VMware estate, for example. What needs to talk to Azure that's staying on-prem? Thinking about that, do you need the connectivity in place to be high bandwidth? Is there a lot of data that you're expecting to be moving between sites, perhaps backups, perhaps data transfers? Do you need a really highly reliable line? Have you got services that that won't respond well to small outages? In that case, you should be looking at something like an express route. If those aren't requirements, VPN may well be something that is adequate for what you want. You may be moving all of your services, or one or two, into Azure as part of that migration, and VPN connectivity is absolutely fine for what you need to achieve. Do you have lots of sites? Do you have lots of sites that you want to connect into Azure, and you'd like those sites to be able to talk to each other? Do you need to look at something like Azure Virtual WAN? That could be an option for you if you don't already have an SD-WAN or an MPLS in place. Do you have any sort of forced tunneling that you currently do? So you may well have a pair of firewalls that you want all of your internet traffic to go out, or goes out currently. So do you need to take the same for the traffic for Azure? Do you need to tunnel that back across an express route to go then out to the internet? Or are you looking to do it the other way around? Are you looking to drive all traffic onto Azure and then out perhaps through an Azure firewall or third-party network virtual appliance? So these are things you need to think about from a perimeter point of view when it comes to Azure. Once we get inside Azure, what is that going to look like? What is your deployment going to look like? Are you going to have lots of centralized services and then different workloads and different elements needing to access those centralized services within Azure? That's generally what we call hub and spoke deployment. Is from the majority of customers that I've seen, there's always an element of centralized services, Active Directory, backups, monitoring that are in place that need access to the rest of the sort of subscriptions or the rest of the resource groups and VNets that are in place. And that is something that you would need to consider. How is that layout going to look? How and what traffic needs to be talking between those different elements? Are you going to have separate subscriptions? We'll look at enterprise scale learning zones later. That's quite a common way of breaking up different elements of your environment, having separate subscriptions for connectivity, or one for identity and one for management. How do they need to talk to each other? Again, something you need to be thinking about. And then within a subscription, VNets, VNet to VNet peering is another consideration. What are the services and the workloads that I've got that I'm gonna need to talk to other services and other workloads within within those subscriptions? Do I want to leave open communication between VNets and subnets, or do I want to be looking to lock those down? Again, something to think about when designing landing zones. And then for the applications that you have, do you have internet-facing applications currently? Have you got DMZ within your environment, and you have web servers sitting there, or application servers sitting there delivering services out to the internet? Are they for customers? Are they for your internal staff? How do you secure these currently? Is it just behind traditional perimeter firewall with a DMZ and then more firewalls behind that? Is that something you want to replicate in Azure, or is it something you need to? Can you be looking at things like application gateway or web application firewalls for those websites? Are those websites, where you earn your money? Are they commercial? Have you got a marketplace where customers can spend money? Do you have something like a gambling site where people are depositing money and making bets? In that case, do you want to look at things like DDoS protection? It may well be that you have that in place now for a network vendor. Is it something you want to leverage directly through Azure? And then where are those workloads going to sit? Do you have one? Are you going to be sat in the UK, serving customers out of the UK and serving customers globally from one environment, or are you planning on having different Azure environments across the globe? Do you want your local customers to be able to get to that local instance. Thinking about something like Front Door, where you can deliver customers in Australia to Azure environments within region, US going to US, UK to go to UK. So thinking about this, before you go to deploy anything, is something you need to consider. And then finally, custom DNS seems like a small thing, but for DNS, do you have custom requirements? So there's clever things that you're doing with it. You need to do. If not, can you just hand that off to Azure DNS? Start leveraging some of these platform as a service. Or do you need to do something more custom? Do you need to deploy your own DNS VM? Or maybe in between, looking at something like your Active Directory domain services could be an option for you.